There are nights you remember not because something happened, but because something almost did. I've replayed that night maybe 1,000 times. Every detail sits exactly where I left it. The temperature, the sound of gravel under my tires, the way the light from that window cut through the dark in a way that felt wrong before I understood why. I wasn't supposed to be there. That's the part that stays with me. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that on a Tuesday night in late October, I took a wrong turn on a road I thought I knew. Not a dramatic wrong turn, not a cliff, just a dirt road that looked familiar enough that I didn't second guess it until I'd been on it for 11 minutes and my GPS had gone completely silent. No rerouting, no signal lost notification, just silence, like the app had simply decided to stop caring. I pulled over at 11:42 p.m., the engine idling, fields on both sides flat and black, and about 300 meters ahead, a single light in what looked like an old farmhouse. I told myself I'd just ask for directions. If any of this sounds familiar to you, if you've ever stopped somewhere you couldn't explain and felt something you couldn't name, leave it in the comments. I read every single one. And if this is your first time here, welcome. Subscribe. What we talk about on this channel isn't fiction. It's just the part of real life that nobody wants to say out loud. The farmhouse was further than it looked. That's the first thing I noticed. 300 meters became 5, then 8. The road narrowed without warning, and the dried grass on either side started brushing the doors of my car in a way that made me feel like I was being funneled somewhere. I almost turned back at 11:51. I remember checking the time specifically because I had a habit of doing that when I felt uneasy. Like logging a timestamp might help me make sense of things later. It did. And it didn't. The light I'd seen from the road was a single bulb hanging from the porch ceiling. Not a warm yellow, more of a pale industrial white that made the wood around it look bleached. There was a truck parked to the side, an older model, dark blue or black, hard to tell. The engine was cold. It had been there a while. I sat in my car for a moment before getting out. The property wasn't fenced, but there was a row of cinder blocks lining the entrance to the porch, like someone had started a project and abandoned it. A rusted chair sat against the wall near the door. On the chair, a coffee mug. The mug was upright, no mold, no rain damage, recent. I knocked at 11:56, waited, nothing. I knocked again, 3 times, and then stepped back and looked at the window to the right of the door. The curtain moved. Not in the way curtains move when a draft catches them. It moved the way fabric moves when someone standing behind it decides, at the last second, not to be seen. I said, "Hello? Sorry to bother you. I think I'm lost." My voice sounded strange out there, too loud for the silence, too human. Nobody answered, but whoever was behind that curtain was still there. I couldn't see them. I just knew. I should have left. I know how that sounds. I know exactly how it sounds. But I stood on that porch for another few minutes because something in the logic of the situation kept stalling me. If someone was home, why wouldn't they answer? If no one was home, why was there a fresh coffee mug on the chair? My phone had 1 bar. Not enough to call, enough to see the time. 12:03 a.m. I stepped off the porch and walked around the side of the house, which I now understand was a mistake I should not have made. At the time, it felt rational. I was looking for another entrance, or a light that might mean someone was awake in a back room. The side of the house was dark. One window, no curtain, covered from the inside with what looked like cardboard. And that's when I heard it. A voice, low, not talking to someone else. There was no second voice, more like someone reciting something or reading aloud, very slowly. The words were impossible to make out through the wall. I stood still and listened for maybe 40 seconds. The rhythm of it bothered me more than the sound itself. It wasn't the rhythm of conversation. It wasn't prayer exactly. It was more like someone working through a list, measured, patient. Then it stopped. Total silence. And then from somewhere inside the house, maybe from the room directly behind that cardboard-covered window, a single footstep. Slow, deliberate. I walked back to my car. I didn't run. Running felt like the wrong decision in a way I couldn't articulate. I just walked steadily, watching the porch light the whole time, and got in and started the engine. At 12:07 a.m., as I was turning around in the narrow road, my headlights swept across the front of the house. The coffee mug was gone. I got home at 1:34 a.m. I took a longer route back, stayed on roads I recognized with streetlights, with the occasional car passing in the other direction. I didn't stop again. I didn't sleep well. I kept waking up and checking the time, which is something I don't normally do. At 3:12, at 4:48, at 5:30 when the sky outside my window was starting to turn grey. In the morning, I tried to find the road on a map. I knew roughly where I'd turned off, a county road I'd driven maybe a dozen times before. I thought I could retrace it. But on the satellite view, the area showed only fields, no structure, no farmhouse, no truck. That could mean anything. Those images aren't always current, could be 2, 3 years old. I drove back out there on Thursday afternoon. In daylight, the road existed. I found the turnoff. The gravel was there, and the dried grass, and the way it narrowed as you went further in. The farmhouse was there too. Daytime changed almost nothing about how it looked. Same bleached wood, same cinder blocks, same rusted chair. The coffee mug wasn't there, but the ring it had left on the armrest was still dark, still new. The front door was slightly open, maybe 2 inches, enough to see that the inside was dark. I did not go in. I stood about 15 feet from the porch and looked at the house for a long time. No movement, no sound, no truck. Before I left, I noticed something I hadn't seen at night. On the cinder block closest to the porch steps, someone had written something in black marker. A series of numbers that looked like dates or measurements or coordinates. I took a photo. I've tried to make sense of what those numbers mean. I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know who was in that house. I don't know what they were saying. I don't know why the mug disappeared in the 90 seconds I was around the side of the building. What I know is this: I wasn't supposed to be there, and whoever was inside that house, they knew that too. Some places are quiet for a reason. Some lights in the dark are not invitations. I still have the photo of the numbers. Sometimes I look at it before I go to sleep. I'm not sure why I keep doing that.